This is my YOELEO R12. I've put over 10,000 kilometers on it, in all sorts of terrains, including the Swiss, French and Italian Alps. You will learn not only about my riding impressions, but also about my experience with YOELEO, the purchasing process, what others have said about this Chinese bike and much more. But for now, let's rewind a bit and delve into the whole story of this bike. I decided to buy it primarily to form my own opinion about Chinese carbon. It's worth noting that I ordered the bike when most other brands were completely sold out and Chinese carbon was experiencing a surge in popularity. I chose the version with Shimano Ultegra Di2 11-speed group set and 50mm deep rims. I also opted for this beautiful sky blue custom paint, which was only $150 extra, but extended the delivery time by about 2 months. The color selection itself was perhaps the trickiest part. While I had a clear idea about the color, picking from the catalog was tough and YOELEO didn't handle this part of the purchase well back then. Now I know they have improved in this area. After a few back and forth emails, the frame finally went into production and all I had left to do was wait. I received it within 3 months, just before Christmas 2021. This was still pretty quick. Remember, many other people had to wait for their new Western bikes 6 months or even longer. Once I recorded the unboxing video and the weather was favorable, I couldn't wait to finally take the bike out for its first ride. I will be honest, this is my first carbon road bike. My previous road bikes were made of steel and then of aluminum. On my very first ride, I immediately noticed the increased stiffness, coupled with improved comfort thanks to the 28mm tubeless tires. I used 25mm clincher tires before. The bike's responsiveness far exceeded that of my aluminum bike. I've also never had deep section wheels, so the ease of maintaining higher speeds with them really impressed me. It felt like I was piloting a rocket. Pedaling at these speeds felt so easy. On the other hand, when riding steep hills above 10%, R12 feels a little sluggish. But it mainly depends on the wheels I'm using it with. For example, the ride impression is completely different when I use Elite Wheels drag wheels, which weigh around 1300 grams, or YOELEO Sud Pro 2022, which weighed around 1550 grams. Either way, this bike breathed new life into my enjoyment of cycling. Up to today, I've taken it not only just to local roads, but also abroad. I've been riding it in Croatia, Italy, Switzerland and France. I've tackled stretches of the Alps and conquered renowned climbs such as Passo dello Stelvio, Col de Nivole, Col du Galibier, Furka Pass and many more. You can check out my Strava profile, the link is in the video description. The bike's geometry strikes a balance between relaxed and aggressive. In the picture you can see a comparison with the Specialized SL7. I find the bike comfortable and I don't experience back pain after long rides. Comfort is probably the main advantage of this bike. Many other reviewers mention it as well. In contrast to the Canyon Endurance AL I had previously, I switched from 42 to 38 cm handlebar and a longer stem. This has resulted in a more aerodynamic riding position. On the other hand, I don't have as much leverage when I'm riding out of the saddle. I consider myself to be a pretty careful cyclist, so I don't lean into the corners like experienced criterium racers. But the important thing is that I've always had confidence in this bike, and I wasn't worried about the frame breaking somewhere or anything like that. But this brings me to a topic very few people talk about. I remember the day I first rode with our club and brought along my new bike. Most of the members started looking at it curiously. Surprisingly for me, some of the reactions and opinions were quite negative. This was despite it being one of the first bikes in the bunch with fully integrated cable routing and a very clean look. I expected some criticism aimed at Chinese carbon, but not to this extent. I felt sad, because I was genuinely excited about having a cool looking new bike. I was proud of it. So, I had no choice but to put the negativity behind me, stop worrying about the opinions of others and simply enjoy the ride. Do you have similar experience? Let me know in the comments below. Over time, others started asking me more about the bike and were curious, for example, about the integrated cable routing. It probably won't surprise you that many people still turn up their noses at this bike because it's not a Western brand and doesn't cost 10,000 US dollars. But I've noticed that these people mostly know nothing about the bike, are unwilling to open their minds and refuse my offer to try it. I guess their ego won't allow it. On the flip side, I was pleasantly surprised abroad, especially in France and Italy, where I received plenty of compliments about the color and overall design. These compliments came from riders on bikes from Specialized, Cannondale and other Western brands. How ironic! What I'm trying to say is that if you care about the opinions of others, you will probably face a challenge when having a frame from a Chinese brand. And now, listen me carefully. Some people will try to steal your joy. After all, social pressure is huge in cycling and, in my opinion, is one of the main sales forces. One of the things I appreciate about YOELEO is the ability to customize the stem and handlebar combo. You can choose from different handlebar widths and stem lengths. This is not common with Western brands that usually put wider handlebars on larger frame sizes and vice versa. But hey, not all tall people have wide shoulders, right? So, the possibility of choosing the dimensions you want is priceless, especially with integrated cockpits, as you won't be able to adjust them like with a standard bike. So, measure twice and take advantage of this customization. You will save a lot of money. The price for custom painting is also very reasonable. They doubled it, but 300 US dollars is still ridiculously low compared to Trek's Project One, which cost around 1000 US dollars, with some variants going for double that. The way it works is that when you place an order, you select the custom painting option and a YOELEO sales representative contacts you to ask you how you want the frame to look. They may refuse very complex paint jobs, but they can handle most standard ones. Once approved, they will send you your design applied directly to a 3D model of the frame, so you have an idea of what it will look like. You know, I'm not exactly the type of person to feel the need to break from the norm, but I'm glad that my bike color is unique and not common. And I believe many others will feel the same. In terms of handling characteristics, I want to highlight the good balance between stiffness and comfort. The bike is not as stiff as, for example, Aero road bikes like the Cannondale System 6. At the same time, I don't feel that its stiffness limits me. I appreciate the comfort that allows me to ride longer distances. Thanks to me and the newly established Czech distribution, a few friends decided to get the R12 as well. Their first impressions usually include mainly surprise from the ride feel, and they appreciate its price-performance ratio. But the R12 is not only about positives. One of the things I dislike the most is the YOELEO logo. It looks outdated and would deserve a redesign. It's also clear that YOELEO is struggling with how to approach branding on the head tube because I've already seen several variants. My friend, a bike mechanic, also noticed that the rear wheel is slightly off-center between the seat stays. Although I don't perceive this flaw in the riding characteristics, it's a significant defect. I contacted YOELEO about this problem. They claim it shouldn't happen again. Well, we will see in my future review of the new R12. Stay tuned. I also find the rear part of the frame a little outdated. I prefer dropped seat stays, like those on the SL7, YOELEO R12 and similar bikes. I ordered a complete bike from YOELEO. However, some parts were subpar. For instance, the saddle was a fake Specialized power comp. A bike like this deserves an original or a different saddle. The handlebar tape was originally black and gold, which didn't match the rest of the bike at all. After the season, I replaced it with all black tape. There was also no information on bolt torques for this version of the R12, so it was necessary to ask YOELEO directly. Furthermore, some of the bolts are of poor quality as they started to rust. I also need to mention the delivery times. Unless you are ordering from a local distributor, you will have to wait at least a few weeks for the frame, bike or wheels to arrive. At the time I ordered this bike, it offered decent value for money, especially if you ordered a frame set for around 1200 US dollars and build the bike by yourself. I will discuss whether this is true for the upgraded but more expensive version of this frame in one of my next videos. Buying a complete bike on the Ultegra Di2 was less of a bargain, as the price was around 6000 US dollars, import fees and tax included. For comparison, the Canyon A-Road with Ultegra Di2 was sold for a similar price, but it was sold out and it didn't have completely integrated cable routing. And, as I already mentioned, some parts were obviously skimped on the R12. I would need to have more experience with other carbon bikes in this price range to better evaluate the right characteristics. However, in terms of frame build quality, even based on the reviews of others, YOELEO is one of the better Chinese brands. And we can't forget the relatively high flexibility in the choice of components and the affordable custom paint. This frame is not perfect, but the value you get for the money is excellent, especially compared to the Western brands. Anyway, I hope you find this review helpful. If you do so, please like and subscribe to support my channel. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one. Ciao!